Now I need to kill these two Armos to spawn the small key chest, and boy are Armos hitbox is weird. Yep. Again, this route is pretty tight on bombs, so I'll just do a quick clawshot kill instead. The most consistent way to kill an Armos with a bomb arrow is to shoot the floor right behind it. Sometimes hitting the Armos itself works, but very often it doesn't, even when it really looks like it should. And interestingly, on the Wii version, that's used for most Wii speedruns, the hitbox is different, and it's best to aim at the front of the Armos' head, for some reason. Anyway, small key.
Get a large stuffed crunch crust for $9.49 from Little Caesars. It has delicious breadcrumbs on a cheese stuffed crust that make it, what's the word?
It's crunch-tastic.
You read my mind, kiddo. Get the lowest price in stuffed crust for only $9.49. Little Caesars is the real deal.
Pizza, pizza.
Microsoft Azure helps you handle workload spikes.
I'll purposely do some imperfect rolling here because otherwise this blade trap would knock me all the way down to the bottom floor, which is slow. The positions of the walls in this room are governed by this crystal switch, so I'll need to hit it once here to get past the BMOS, but I can skip hitting it a second and third time in this room by just clawshotting this clawshot target from way over here. This part of the room is the same idea, but with much more annoying enemies. So I've actually saved one of my bombs to use on this crystal switch, so it's easier to hit while I'm getting pushed around. Or just with poor visibility. Either way. Did that wall just push the Lizalfos out of bounds? Nice. You can get some pretty interesting Lizalfos interactions in this dungeon, including getting a Lizalfos stuck under the floor so you just see its shadow running around. I've seen it happen, but I honestly have no idea how it works. So in 100% runs, I skip these scales with the Jump Strike Moon Boots onto the railing, and while there are ways of getting onto that railing without 6 hidden skills, they're much harder to do in a way that saves time, and they also don't work if any of the spiders in the room are within targeting range, so I don't go for it in this category. But I am at least going up here to get the boss key early. You're kind of not supposed to do this until you're coming back down with the statue, but it's pretty easy to just clawshot up with one little statue on the scale. This room has yet another cool skip that you can see in TAS's, but not in RTA runs, yet. I need to kill the enemies to open the door, and then I'll put things on the 4 switches to open the gate to the boss key chest. It is possible to bomb boost over the gate to the chest without pressing the switches, but it's quite precise and only saves time if you get it first try. Someday there will be a good setup that makes it worth going for, but for now it's at least satisfying to do the room smoothly. And as I clawshot the Helmasaur shells, you can see a little bit more of those L slides that I used during Salad Skip. She clawshots these Helmasaur shells by the seashore. She clawshots these Helmasaur shells by the seashore. She clawshots these Almost got 3. In this room, all the blade traps are on cycles, but their cycles don't line up with each other, so if things don't go exactly according to plan, I am likely to get destroyed. But I will try to avoid that, and it's going well so far. Here's my third and final small key of the dungeon. Nice, all went according to plan. Destruction averted. Now I can skip putting something on the switch by LJing past the barrier before it reforms, and bomb arrow these Armos from afar to open the gate. Fun fact, if I had bomb arrowed either of the Armos from way back at the small key chest, which is possible, then the game would have crashed. And that's why TASs don't do that. Here's the Dark Nut mini-boss. I could start the fight by rolling all the way over to it, but it's a little faster to shoot it from the door. I always found Dark Nuts hard to fight casually, but when you know what to do, they're pretty easy. This is especially true for Phase 2. If you've seen any of my commentated 100% runs, you'll know that it's possible to skip this Dark Nut and get over the gate to the Dominion Rod. Unfortunately, there's no known way to do that without at least 3 hidden skills, and this category only gets 1, so I did need to complete that fight. Alright, I have the Dominion Rod, so now I can start escorting the statue back down the dungeon. Or I could save warp back to the entrance and skip that entire sequence. It turns out that instead of opening the Door of Time with the big statue, I can just get pushed through it by a small statue. Provided, of course, I line up with just the right angle and roll at just the right time. Here I'll use the item wheel again to do another buffered angle setup, just like I did at the beginning of Salad Skip. And now I just need one frame perfect roll. There we go. That skipped several minutes of backtracking, and now I'm in the boss door room. If there were Lizalfos in this room, then destruction would be imminent. This movement's pretty neat. I'll get the statue stuck on a corner here so Link goes far ahead, and then I can play as the statue for a little bit. The Armagoma fight is completely RNG based. She's guaranteed to crawl from light to light for a random amount of time, and then she has a 50-50 chance of stopping and becoming vulnerable at each light after that time. Her pathing on the ceiling is also RNG, so she can crawl to a nearby light or a farther light, and her ceiling pathing determines what path she takes back up to the ceiling after each cycle, which can involve crawling up a nearby wall or a far wall. So I have essentially no control over how long this fight lasts. That first cycle was not terribly fast or terribly slow, though Goma is crawling all the way across the floor and all the way across the ceiling before dropping eggs. After each cycle, she always crawls back to the light that she was smooshed under, but again, the pathing is random. Strictly speaking, killing the baby spiders isn't necessary, but they would be a big nuisance while I'm trying to shoot Goma's eye. That cycle also wasn't too bad, but she is going to crawl across the room again. Would have been nice to showcase a fast pathing, but Goma doesn't share my priorities. That was pretty slow. I have had slower though. Alright, that is one smushed spider. The fight is definitely over, etc., etc. Huh? I didn't see this coming, etc., etc. Instead of using 3 arrows, I could have just used 1 bomb arrow, but as usual, I am preserving bombs for later use. I've got 6 bombs left, and I have a plan for each one of them. As you can see, this is one of the least convenient heart containers, being so far away from the portal, so I'm going to skip this one. I also really don't need health right now. I mentioned earlier that an alternative route idea has Temple of Time early, prior to Lakebed Temple. At present, that route is about the same speed as this route optimally, but it involves the precise bomb boost to enter Temple of Time that I mentioned earlier, and another very tricky sequence to skip the spinner rail outside the boss key room in Temple of Time. So what even is the benefit of putting Temple of Time early? This category never uses the Dominion Rod outside of the dungeon, so it isn't that. No, it's primarily just skipping rolling out of this room. On this route, I need to warp away, so I need to exit to the present to do that. But if I were ukuing to Lakebed Temple after this, I could do that from this room. Here's another spot where it's kind of awkward not to have map warping. I can't call Midna straight after the Uku cutscene, so I'll need to just stand here for a second. Again, City in the Sky is coming up next, so I'm heading to Kakariko where the Sky Cannon is. And very soon we'll see the culmination of the setup that I did with the Sky Cannon way back in Elden Twilight. First though, I have some financial concerns. I'm at 86 rupees, and I need 300 to pay Fire to fix the Sky Cannon. There's a convenient silver rupee, worth 200, in the bell over the sanctuary, and although I can't get up to it using the Midna jumps as intended because I didn't activate the jumps way back during the Twilight, I can do a neat setup to catch the silver rupee in the boomerang. Part of the setup is standing at one of a few specific spots, so the boomerang doesn't get the silver rupee caught on the broken walls at the top of the sanctuary. That was a good one. I even got the text skip. So, recalling my explanation during Elden Twilight, because I asked Midna to warp the cannon and she said that she couldn't because Shad was watching, the next step in the way the game intends for this sequence to work is for me to talk to Shad to get him to leave the sanctuary so I can warp the Sky Cannon in peace. So I just did that. Never mind that I never got the Skybook, powered the Dominion Rod, filled the Skybook, or moved the owl statue. Doesn't matter. It's very convenient that it works this way. I can't remember whether I already said this earlier in the run, but if I were playing in French, I could do a glitch here to get Fire to fix the cannon without paying him. I play on the North American version of the game because that's what I have, so I can't play in French, but I also don't know whether it's faster for this category. It does skip gathering rupees, like this final red rupee that I'm getting from Fire's hut, but the glitch itself costs around 17 seconds, and French text is slower for some slow text boxes throughout the run. For any percent, French, German, and English have all been within a few seconds of each other for a while, so I guess that it's about the same for all dungeons, but I honestly don't care enough to look into it myself. I've always liked that it doesn't matter very much which language you run this game in, at least for some categories. City in the Sky is really cool in speedruns, but unfortunately there are a bunch of cutscenes leading up to it. Not so many once the dungeon starts though. So enjoy one more cutscene with Uku. Boy, this cutscene really does drag on. Boy, this cutscene really does man chicken. Boy, this gameplay really is starting now, thank goodness. Alright, I got a favorable wind cycle there. Sometimes the wind that's going to blow in just a few seconds is blowing as soon as you gain control. But not this time. And I can avoid getting blown away by the wind while clawshotting the switch by just standing at the base of the stairs. I can quickly cross this next room with some boomerang LJAs, and I'll bounce the boomerang off of walls so that it comes back faster and I don't need to wait on it. Also, I'm going to open the next door in a pretty peculiar way. I'm going to open it as Wolf, and try to open it from about as far away from the door as I can. There's a big fan in the next room preventing access to the boss key, but the trigger for that fan to turn on is right in front of this door, and Wolflink only counts as having hit the trigger if a point around his hind legs touches it. So I just skipped the trigger, and now the fan isn't on, and I can grab the boss key whenever I want, which skips a good chunk of this dungeon. I won't get it just yet though. There's a trick that I can do to get it a little bit faster once I get the double claw shots, this dungeon's dungeon item.
If I were him, I'd bundle my home and auto and pick up the real victory, savings.
Are you talking about bowling?
No, bundling, Jan. Bundling.
Bundle and save with a personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
That bow gives you wings.
So for now, I'll head to the west wing and get the small key. Once the bridge finishes extending, there will be a short cutscene, and if I get off the spinner at just the right time before that, then I can do a roll right before the cutscene starts. And now I can LJA across this gap, which is slightly faster than using the clawshot. Technically, I could have done 2 rolls from that spinner socket, but getting off the spinner in time to do that is very risky. If you get off the spinner slightly too early, then the bridge won't finish extending, and you have to do the entire socket again. It is unfortunate that this small key is so far out of the way. The double claw shots are on the complete opposite end of the dungeon from this. There is a way to skip this small key, and it appears in TASes, but no runner has ever been able to do it because it's incredibly precise in positioning, timing, and aiming at every single step. Maybe someday we'll find an easier method that's reasonable to use in runs, but I doubt the known method will ever be used. There is a human viable way to do it, but it involves Jump Strike, the 6th hidden skill, which unfortunately doesn't save enough time in this category to warrant getting. As a hundo runner, I'm a hidden skill enjoyer. There's some more wind RNG here. Good RNG again, nice. Otherwise the wind would have been blowing me to the right. It would have made me do 1 extra roll. And here I will skip a cutscene trigger that's on the stairs just by jumping around it. That trigger is for the cutscene of Argarok coming and destroying that bridge, which takes like 25 seconds, I think? I can't remember. The important thing is that it takes more than 0 seconds, so I don't want to watch it. Here is the true final boss of City in the Sky, this Baba Serpent. Oh, that wasn't so bad. It's just really annoying sometimes. Here I'll go for that roll again. I should have said earlier, it's a 2-frame window to get 2 rolls in. And with no great visual cue, it's just not worth the risk. There isn't anything really crazy in these upcoming rooms, but I really like the way they flow. I'll start off by skipping the entire puzzle in this room and just LJAing to the door. And there are a million ways to cross this next room, but the fastest way will be to use a tile worm LJA, followed by a boomerang LJA. The tile worm LJA is a little picky in positioning, but not too precise. I just needed to make sure not to get too close, or it would have burrowed and become untargetable. In this room, we'll see that Dynalphos are scared of the clawshot. Hopefully I can get a 1-frame roll here. Nice, that aggroes them early. Hi, fellas. Bye, fellas. And now this gate will open all the way. Not part of the way, all the way. Pulling the switch starts the fan cycle, and I'll want to delay jumping off with an Uku just a little bit so that I'm not too early for the cycle. But I want to delay just enough. Ideally, I'll just get pushed up by the fan a tiny bit. That was a little later than ideal, but not too bad. In the second half of this room, I meant to pull another switch and turn on another fan to get to the door, but I can just do a slightly awkward jump with Uku instead, and barely make it. Oh, by the way, notice that Link just grabbed that ledge with one hand? I'll talk more about that after I get the double claw shots. So the mini-boss door is at the bottom of this room, and I am at the top of this room. Now we're both at the bottom of this room. There's a 1-framer at this door as well. Ideally I can put the boots on. No, I missed it, unfortunately. So the next best thing is to clawshot this switch and then put the boots on. There's also a 1-framer to drop through this fan during this cutscene, but it leaves Link with the iron boots on afterwards, and that kind of screws up the setup that I'm about to do, so it wouldn't save me time. But wait, a setup? Why do I need a setup to fight a mini-boss? I am, in fact, not fighting the mini-boss. I did a quick position setup there, and now I'm failing an angle setup a few times, whoops. And now I can clawshot straight past the gate and skip the entire fight. Armed with the double claw shots, I'll now head to the boss key and then to the boss, and the fastest way to do that from here will be to save warp. Interestingly, instead of putting me at the dungeon entrance, like save warping almost always does, this one will put me back at the small key chest. That happens because I skipped the Argorok cutscene on the bridge, which makes sense. If a casual player happened to save warp to the dungeon entrance right after getting the key, that cutscene would never play. It's not a super important part of the dungeon, but it's not meant to be skipped. Oh yeah, I pointed out that one-handed grab earlier. In most situations, there are some exceptions. When Link is grabbing a ledge or some vines, which happens a lot in this dungeon, there's a 30% chance he'll get a 2-handed grab and a 70% chance that he gets a 1-handed grab. It's just RNG. Oh, also this cutscene trigger is gone now since I got the double claw shots. So hopefully I'll get a 2-handed grab here. Nice, I got lucky. 2-handed grabs are 32 frames faster than 1-handed grabs, so just over a second. Here's where I'll finally take advantage of having skipped that fan trigger. I can go straight up to the boss key without having to turn off the fan by going around the entire second half of the dungeon. Nice 2-handed grab, by the way. And another one! Why did he go downwards? That was so strange. Sometimes the camera angle really messes up climbing on vines. Anyway, if I clawshot onto a specific part of this grate, then I can actually clawshot... Nice, the Helmosaurus is in the way. I've got to wait for it to move. There we go. I can clawshot through this grate and get up to the boss key without even going outside. What a great clip. Now, in a casual playthrough, you would want to turn on the outdoor fans by pulling a big switch here before going outside, but I'm not going to do that. I've got the Gale Boomerang. Very helpfully, if I clawshot onto the grates on those fans from above and towards the very top of the fan, then Link will grab the top of the fan instead of trying to clawshot again from the grate. So I can do that to get across these first 2 fans. And from here, I can use the boomerang to do a couple of LJs and make it across to the other side. I used to do a double LJA here instead of 2 singles, but I switched to this recently because it takes about the same amount of time and it's a little less risky. Coming up next is the fan tower. I really like doing this room in categories like this one that get the bow, because you can snipe the top crystal switch from the very bottom using a bomb arrow. Should hear a ding. There's a ding. So that made the top fan in the room start to spin, and ultimately that means that I can get to the boss door around 8 seconds faster than if I were to activate the top fan from the top fan like I'm supposed to. no! Oh, barely missed it. I was a little too early on that first claw shot. That's a shame. Well, I'll just take the next cycle. Just gotta wait. Unfortunate, but I made it. There's a one framer here, and if I get it, then I can roll before the camera pans. No, missed it, unfortunately. So now I'll try to claw shot all the way to the top of the vines from way down here, and I'll be pretty picky about my aiming, because if I claw shot as far right as possible on the vines, Link will hang off of them and try to use the second claw shot, and he can't climb in that state, so I'd have to void out and try again.